There comes a time in a man's life when he decides who he wants to be and how Freemasonry and the Scottish Rite fit into his life. We believe the Brotherhood of Freemasonry offers many levels of knowledge to help with life's tough decisions, along with a vast social network of friendship and support. Dr. Richard Draper has had a great life, and as you will hear, it was the guidance of Freemasonry, and particularly Scottish Rite Freemasonry, that helped him make some of his life's greatest decisions. As the story begins, Dr. Draper tells of his discussions with Clarence, a Freemason. Their friendship launched the young Richard Draper on his Masonic journey.
I was consumed with this desire to want to do something with my life, but I wasn't working smart. I was expending a lot of energy. I wasn't really getting where I wanted to go. I thought how I needed to. A lot of starts and stops, but I was getting there positively, but I thought there's got to be a better way. And in talking with him, he was able to, we became very good friends, and I had noticed that he had a Blue Lodge ring on, and I knew my dad and my grandfather had been Masons, and but my dad had never talked about it, of course, which you don't. You know, he had just lived his life according to Masonic principles, and started to intrigue me. I became a Blue Lodge Mason at Lodge 38 in Norman, Oklahoma. I was a senior in college then at University of Oklahoma. I began my work there in Norman and was raised. In fact, my dad raised me. And we subsequently raised my brother. I was in graduate school, was completing a master's degree in Kansas City at UMKC, and had gotten into medical school. One of the questions that they ask you in the interview process is whether or not you can afford it. And if you can't afford it, they'll find somebody else that can. I was within 2 weeks of starting classes, and the medical school was very clear about their message. They said that if you don't pay your tuition, you don't start. So I was kind of in a quandary. I didn't really know what to do. My dad was hundreds of miles away. I didn't really know many people in Kansas City because I worked and was going to school and had a young family, a child, and was driving around town, and something compelled me to stop at the Scottish Rite Temple at Linwood in the Paseo. I'd always been aware of the building because it's quite beautiful, and I'd always been a little curious about it, being a Freemason and all. And I didn't know who to talk to. I really didn't know what to do at that point, and so I just needed to talk to somebody. I wanted to talk to a brother, and so I went in there, and Jack Furlong was the executive director then, and we talked and introduced ourselves, exchanged niceties and everything, and he asked me how could he help me, and I told him my situation, and he said, well, how much money do you need? And I figured that if I had $1,500, I could probably swing it. And he asked me some more details about how I arrived at that and what my expenses were. And in those days, the tuition was $5,750, which is nothing these days. And Mr. Furlong listened to every word, and he said, we're not in the business of making school loans. He said, but let me see what I can do. Come back after lunch. And so I thought, okay, great. He's going to give me a $50 scholarship or something like that. And when I got back and I sat at his desk, he pushed this envelope across the desk towards me, and he said, this is the best we can do. And it was a check for $10,000.
I think Richard Draper is an interesting man, a unique man, a man of science, certainly, a man of medicine, without doubt, a man of values and faith, and he lives all of those concurrently.
To this day, I don't know if it was the Lodge that did, or the Scottish Rite that did that for me, or if he did it out of his own bank account. But the effect was the same. And he literally saved my professional career at that point before it even started. Well, fast forward years after that, and I'm a practicing emergency department physician in a hospital in Kansas City. And a woman checked in who was near to death. She was very ill, and her last name was Furlong. And it's an unusual name, and I asked her if she was related to Jack Furlong, and her eyes misted up, and she said that Jack had been her son, and he had died a few years before. And as it turned out, we were able to pull her back from the brink of death, and she turned around pretty well and survived. And I've always thought that Jack, she owed her, that his mother owed Jack a debt of thanks, because were it not for him, I wouldn't have gotten into school, or wouldn't have been able to go to school, and his mother might not have made it.
I've been in the healthcare system for about 20 years, and I've worked with many physicians, and Dr. Draper, I have to say, is one of the most compassionate physicians that I have ever met. He gets down at the patient's level. He actually feels that compassion for that patient, and it's not fake, it's real. I've seen him go out of his way to donate money or pay for a hotel room or do things for patients that it's not a normal activity for you to do here. The Scottish Rite is a perfect example of where our communities need to get back to, and that's a leader in our community, and I wish that everybody would join that and be respectful of each other and learn that it's okay to give and to not always receive. And I see that as the Scottish Rite. They are very giving people, and the biggest hearts I've ever seen.
I firmly believe that we are what we think about the most, and that our inner thoughts become our words, and our words become our actions, and our actions become our behavior, and our behavior becomes our character, and our character determines our destiny. And so what you think about is what you wind up doing. It's how it's manifested. It's really quite amazing to me. But the Scottish Rite and the Freemasons have allowed me I'm living proof that it works.
As you can see, there came a time in Richard Draper's life when he decided that Freemasonry and the Scottish Rite was the best way for him to become who he wanted to be. If now is your time, I invite you to contact us. You will become part of a worldwide network of men you can trust, men who are growing in character and moving forward together.
I was able to see very deeply within the experience that is life.
You got people who are, their early 20s, all the way through, their 90s actually. The experience that they share with each other, that never gets old.
Scottish Rite is right for the man who is looking to go more deeply into the meaning of life.
It's true. It's very eye-opening. It takes you to a new level as a person, and that's the important thing. You get out of this what you want to get out of it.
And I feel like the people that are involved in this are not just preaching to do the right thing, they are doing the right thing. And to me, that's the true sign of an honest organization, is that they deliver. They're not just talking the talk, they walk the walk. And that's the kind of organization I want to be a part of.
It's something that you don't talk about a lot. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, your grandpa was a member. And you're like, what? Really?
The one thing that the fraternity in general has taught me is to be more compassionate to other people, no matter their walk of life, to try to walk a mile in their shoes and understand them and be charitable to them, not just monetarily, but in time and in many other ways.
I also know that it has done me better, because some of the things I've learned here about justice and equality and all of those things have helped me to deal better with my fellow man.
The Scottish Rite is relevant in today's society because it imparts the principles of brotherhood, of looking for the best in people, whether Masons or not, of believing in something that is greater than all of us.
It's tough to explain the different people that I have met through this organization, because they're all so unique, and I mean, they're from every walk of life, but they are truly your brother, and they want the best for you.
A way of life, that's what Masonry is all about, and we teach it. Every degree is a lesson.
We are this imperfect person, imperfect man, and there's always some way to improve ourselves. But you got to have the right tools for that, and I think Scottish Rite provides those tools and shows you the way to progress as a person and as a man.
More and more young people in the Blue Lodges are coming in. A lot of young people that I see, former military, business people, are finding in us what we have said all along that we are, which is the opportunity to take good men and make them better.
My father is definitely interested now that I've become a Mason. It's one of my favorite subjects. Whenever I talk to them on the phone, it's always about some lecture or program that happened, whether it be in my Blue Lodge or at Scottish Rite, and he's definitely curious.
In a spiritual way, it makes you a better person.
He already was a great guy anyway, but I think he's been enhanced. His life has been enhanced.
The Scottish Rite has rejuvenated my interest in Masonry. It's brought it to a higher level.
A difference that's been made in my life by being a Scottish Rite Mason has been so many people out on the road who introduced themselves as Scottish Rite Masons. They're tremendous people. They've become very good friends in my life.
It's the brotherhood is the biggest difference.
I would tell them that it has definitely given Ben a place to belong.